kind of give you an idea where I'm at. I'm in California, and we're looking north. Now, Vegas is about 2 hours that away. New Year's weekend, traffic's already bumper to bumper and crawling at about 10 miles an hour. I'm going to get stuck in that for just a little bit. All this copper slag and everything came out of these mountains that are out here. Out in the middle of nowhere, for sure. Looking south, well actually east. LA's that way. About 4 hours maybe. Middle of nowhere. Back to the truck. Arizona is about hour and a half that way. And then back north again toward Vegas. We're coming up on sunset here, and I still have to get my samples. I haven't even done that. But that's the other side of the canyon. And you can see where they were living over there also. Part of the workings for the copper mill. Just out in the middle of nowhere. The two large slag piles from the top. At this point over here was down below where I got my samples. It's about 25 feet high. There's a little something here for you, Jonathan. Remember this one? Yeah, it's still here. A little backstory on that, and kind of a side joke for Jonathan and I, or Jonathan, me and Jonathan, however you say that, is we worked this area about a year and a half ago. We came out and did some surface mining. We used a dry washer and spent about 5 or 6 hours out here just crushing and running this material through a dry washer to see what we could come up with, hoping there would be some gold mixed in. This is a copper ore dump. This whole area right here is just raw copper ore. So if you want copper and you want to smelt your own copper, come and get it. And we were hoping there was going to be some gold mixed in with that. And after about 5 or 6 hours of ass-breaking work, we got zero. Absolutely nothing out of that. And it was one of the best days we ever had. This is part of the mill complex as you first come in. You can see over 140 years there's been some erosion and some changes. And this is one of the unique features of being out here in the middle of nowhere, is you live where you basically build your house. And yes, we are in the middle of nowhere, but this is where they lived. And we're gonna go in that one right there. They were actually very, very smart about how they did this. Their roof is a layer of caliche rock. This stuff is terrible to work with. Very, very hard. Very, very hard material. And they even have a hard time blasting that out. So they used it as a roof. They got up underneath it. And then when you come in, this is one of the lower ones, but it's actually, temperature-wise, is very, very pleasant. Now, it may have been deeper at one time. Sediment and everything, you see where it's filled with water. But their construction is very interesting. Pillars on both sides. That is a chimney, so they actually could have heat. And we'll go in the one next door because it's got better examples of it. But hang on one second. Okay. This part I find quite fascinating, and that is all these marks, hand chisel marks. 130, 135 years ago, some guy came in here with a hammer and pick and chiseled out his house. Very, very cool. Again, the chimney, which is blocked. Places for supports. Quite interesting. And again, backfilled because of rain and mud. So I'm not exactly sure how deep they were. But they lived in these things. Okay. I came down that road and we were above it. We were facing down this direction. Now we're at the bottom of one of the copper slag piles. And this is what I came forward to get samples of. I am 6 foot tall even. At the highest point, right there, is probably 25 feet. And it goes back several hundred yards. I mean, this pile is enormous. And once again, nowhere. This was deposited somewhere about 135, 140 years ago. If history is correct, that I've been able to find out about this place, it shut down about 1885, somewhere in that area there. Okay, excuse my heavy breathing, but I just got my samples and show you basically what I'm taking and why I'm taking it. A lot of little stuff, and this stuff is heavy. I mean, really heavy. I took it from up there, and not a very good sampling in the context of, I'm hoping it's going to be an overall kind of general sampling versus a specific or targeted sampling. And I want to take some big stuff. This will be easy to crush. This will be easy to crush up so I can send out for an assay report. And the assay report will tell me exactly what is in this and how much of what is in it. So it's going to tell me if we've got copper left, if we've got silver, if we've got gold, zinc, anything that's going to run in this geological area here. That assay report will tell me, and it will give it to me in parts per million. And then I can figure it out from there as to turn it out per tons. But I'm not an expert in smelting rock, but 140 years ago, I would say these guys sucked at it. And I'll show you why here in a minute. Okay, this is one of them I'm going to take back. This I may or may not crush up, I don't know. But it will, if I give it to a geologist, he's going to be able to tell me, oh yeah, this is how bad they were. One of the indicators to me that these guys didn't know what they were doing or weren't under the best conditions was seeing the big air hole. This should have been molten like lava and like a thick jelly, or maybe a little bit runnier than a thick jelly. They didn't have that. There's a lot of pockets, air pockets in this. And the other thing is, I don't know if it's going to show up on film, But in this part of the rock over here, I'm still seeing a lot of trace elements. I mean, like, you can see copper, or the sheen of copper in there, which would lead me to believe they didn't get it all out. I don't know what they were doing. Some of this stuff is really interesting. Same thing here. There's a lot of what appears to be copper still embedded in the rock, or in the slag, excuse me, which is good. I'm not here for the copper, really. Copper values are really low. I'm not here for the copper. I want to know if there's any gold in here. And this is another reason why I don't think they did very good on this. That is a rock. A regular, plain old piece of granite. That shouldn't be there. This is slag. They're removing the impurities. They didn't do a very good job. Plus, I can see a lot of copper still in this too. Right in here, I don't know how well it's going to show up. In here, I can actually see the copper within the slag, where it actually started to separate out, and they didn't get it. So that's all cool. That just means potential. There's a potential for a lot of stuff to be left over in this for me.